Hola, soy la profesora Clark, and today we're going to talk about an irregular verb called tener. Up until this point, we've learned about verbs like ser, when we use como eres, and estar, like como estás, and those two are also irregular verbs. Additionally, the verb tener is an irregular verb. It ends in er. And what makes it irregular is that not only is there an irregularity in the spelling of the first person, tengo, there's also a stem change in the second person, singular, third person, singular, and third person plural forms, along with the formal forms. So if we look at our chart here, you can see that first person singular corresponds to tengo, second person singular informal corresponds to tienes, second person singular formal corresponds to usted tiene, third person singular male, él tiene, third person singular female, ella tiene. If we go to the plural side, we have first person plural, tenemos, second person plural informal, tenéis, second person plural formal, ustedes tienen, and then ellos tienen for third person plural, or ellas tienen. Tener can be used in a number of ways. The first way to use tener is to express possession. And here I have a question and answer. We have ¿qué tienes? Basically, we're asking, what do you have? And so, ¿qué tienes? And our answer would be, tengo un libro. See how the question is stated in second person and we're answering in the first person. Okay. Another example is going to be one right here. ¿Qué tienen tus amigos? Again, tienen tus amigos, that's going to be third person. Mis amigos tienen sus mochilas y unos cuadernos. Again, we're answering in the third person. We can also use tener to express a future obligation. And you can see that I have color-coded that when we use tener, we use the following grammar. We start with one form of the verb tener, and then we add the word que, and then we add any word, any infinitive verb at the end. So if you look at the color, green goes to green, and then the que follows through on all the grammar that you see in the following question and answer, and then the blue follows through. So if we look at our question and answer here, ¿qué tienes que hacer? When we are talking about an obligation, ¿qué tienes que hacer? We mean to say, what do you have to do? What's an obligation that you need to do? And to answer it grammatically correct, we're going to take the second person of tener, which is tienes, and we're going to answer in the first person of tener, which is tengo, and we're going to say tengo que estudiar. And again, you can see how this grammar up here follows through to the grammar in the answer and also to the grammar in the question. The same thing is happening here in our plural example. ¿Qué tienen que hacer tus amigos? Mis amigos tienen que leer el libro. In this case, we have a third-person verb corresponding to a third-person verb. However, the grammar in the question is the same grammar that we have in the answer. We'll talk more about that in class. Another way to use tener is to use an idiomatic expression. And we use tener to express certain physical sensations, mental states, and age in Spanish. And these are sample idiomatic expressions, meaning that there's no valid translation for these in English. because they are just what we say. For example, in English, when we say it's raining cats and dogs, that's an idiomatic expression for us to say it's raining a lot. If we look at our chart here, we can see that I have corresponded English to Spanish. And the question for some of the following answers is rather general, ¿Cómo estás? And you can answer in any of these ways. So I can say, ¿Cómo estás? Tengo hambre. ¿Cómo estás? Tengo sed. ¿Cómo estás? Tengo calor. ¿Cómo estás? Tengo frío. ¿Cómo estás? Tengo miedo. ¿Cómo estás? Tengo sueño. And this one actually might be one that everyone needs to use. And sometimes you might say, ¿Cómo estás? After a particularly embarrassing situation, and you might say, Tengo vergüenza. Another way of using tener is to express your age. Instead of using ser, which is the equivalent that we'd use in English, to be, we would actually use tener to say that I have or I'm in the possession of a certain amount of years to express our age. So the question is going to be, ¿Cuántos años tienes? And the answer would be actually your age. So you're going to use a form of tener plus the amount of years, which would be a number, and then you're going to end up saying años. So your question is going to be ¿Cuántos años tienes? And your answer is going to be Tengo 10 años, or the correct number that would go within that grammar. Another question that we use with tener would be ¿Quién tiene razón? Mi madre tiene razón. And sometimes we just want to know what you're in the mood for. So I can say, ¿Qué quieres hacer? And you can say, Tengo ganas de estudiar. I feel like studying, which I know all of you feel like studying all the time. There's some other idiomatic expressions that we use with tener that you may hear Spanish speakers say. You may hear them in music. You may even see them or written in paper, print, or books. If you want to say that you are jealous, you're going to say tengo celos. If you want to be successful or that you are successful, tengo éxito. Sometimes you might want to talk about a physical sensation, as stated above, tengo dolor de cabeza. And sometimes you just might be in a hurry, tengo prisa. Okay? Other things are going to be careful, tengo cuidado, but most likely we'd probably hear it in the command form, ten cuidado, be careful. This is a general overview of how to use ser. Remember that ser is an irregular verb. You're going to have to memorize the conjugation rather, and keep in mind that we use tener for possession. We use it for age. We use it to express future obligations. And we use it also in a variety of idiomatic expressions. I hope this is helpful, and as usual, we'll see you in class. Muy buena suerte y gracias.